Hello there, Emil Kadlec here with the footballdiehards.com. Week 4 of the NFL season. Wow, it's going quickly. And we're here with the line of scrimmage DFS cash game show, but there's GPP involved also. And here's the scholar, John Laub. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I have to admit, I did not expect Alabama to smack Mississippi today. But, oh, man, did they beat them bad. Welcome to the big leagues, boys. But I'm ready. I've been studying for the last 48 hours. This slate is a challenge, but I really feel like comfortable with my lineups and who I like, and there is value. You just might have to search harder than you're used to.
All right, let's go to the first view graph.
Every week we like to begin with our sleepers. One of the things you need to do every week is find out where can I find value? How can I plug in one or two or maybe three big name players? So this week, looking at some of the matchups, I am always interested in quarterbacks under $6,000. You have to look in detail, in my opinion, when you have a quarterback, a starter at that low salary. And the one that jumped off the page is Tyler Heinecke. In the last 2 weeks, Emil, he has scored 24 and 23 DraftKings points. He has actually played, he's actually played pretty well for the Washington football team. I mean, we all were excited about Ryan Fitzpatrick, and we thought that he might have a very nice season. He was definitely a value as a third quarterback in your 2 quarterback leagues, super flex leagues, but he did get hurt. And when I was looking at this, one matchup that I liked was Terry McLaurin, the wide receiver. And whenever I like a wide receiver matchup, I have to say to myself, well, if I think the wide receiver is going to go for 100 and possibly 2 touchdowns, well, who's the quarterback throwing him the football? So I do like McLaurin a ton. They do have Logan Thomas, the tight end. We saw what Antonio Gibson did with that big, 73-yard touchdown reception last week. So there are parts in place here for Tyler Heinecke. Also, I'm not in love with this Falcons defense. I know they beat the Giants, but I think that was more the Giants' ineptitude than it was anything great by Atlanta. So if you're looking to save on salary at the quarterback position, for $5,900, I like Heinecke here. The nice thing is he can run the football. Last week, he had 21 yards rushing, and he scored a touchdown on the ground. And remember, in the playoff game against the Bucs last year, the future Super Bowl champs, Heinecke also played well in that game. And I do believe he scored a rushing touchdown in that one. So when I get a quarterback at under $6,000, averaging over 23.5 points the last 2 weeks, I'm all in. If you want to spend big at the wide receiver position, Tyler Heinecke can be your quarterback.
Also, Curtis Samuel is back allegedly with Washington this week. So
you're right. And
go ahead.
No, he's interesting. He's only $3,000. He's bare minimum. I'm going to think about that all night. I'm not sure what to make out of how many targets, how many snaps, but for $3,000, Curtis, that is an interesting play. And you're right. That just gives Heinecke another weapon because Samuel could take it anytime he gets a short pass.
And he's 6% owned. It's a morning game, so if there's any concern about him playing, he's not on the injury report. Curtis Samuel, that is. So, but you'll have inactives in the morning before you have to make their final choices.
Great. I mean, I have thought about him for $3,000, and he's someone I'm going to look at in the morning when I readjust my lineups. At running back, I'm all in on Zack Moss. Game script. The Bills are heavy favorites at home. They should be able to beat the Texans soundly, Emil. Last week they put up 43 points against the Washington football team.
Oof.
Now, Moss missed the first game of the season, but in back-to-back games, Emil, 16.5 points, 18.1 points. He had 8 carries and 13 carries. If we get an uptick in carries from Zack Moss, I'm hoping that he comes closer to the 20 carry threshold because of game script. I think by the fourth quarter, the Bills should be killing the clock and just pounding the Texans. And that's great news for Zack Moss. Also, Emil, he has 5 receptions in the 2 games. I mean, that's a nice, if you get 2 or 3 receptions out of a starting running back in a full point PPR, that's nice. I love it. So if he can replicate, as long as he gets into the end zone, you're looking at a floor of 14 points with up to 20. So he's only 5,300. It's tough to get these running backs, especially if you want to go with the Derrick Henry or Alvin Kamara, and then one of the big name wide receivers. I like Zack Moss here, and he's only on our football diehards. Right now, he's at 5% ownership. Emil, I like that a ton this week. The one player, now, I like Brandon Ayuk. A little bit dependent on how does George Kittle play. He's questionable, and if he does play, how many snaps, how many targets? If he doesn't play, I just love Deebo Samuel and Ayuk because the 49ers tend to funnel their passes to a limited amount of players in the passing game. Ayuk here without Kittle and Deebo without Kittle, I think are in store for huge games. Also, Emil, the Seahawks are not very good on the back end. We've been, I've been picking against that Seahawks secondary for the first 3 weeks of the season. I'm clearly not going to stop right now. Ayuk is in line for a big game. We know he got off to a terrible start, didn't play against Detroit, only 1 reception against Philadelphia. But last week against Green Bay, we saw 6 targets. He had 4 receptions and a touchdown. I like Ayuk here, and I even love him if George Kittle doesn't play. But the matchup against that Seattle secondary, Emil, is so tempting, and he's only $5,000. So you get a high-ceiling wide receiver. We know Brandon Ayuk can go 9 receptions for 110 yards with 1 or 2 touchdowns. He's a very high-ceiling wide receiver. I love him there. The other game that I'm interested in, I've got to attack this game between the Rams and the Cardinals. The Rams are at home, Cardinals are on the road. We have DeAndre Hopkins questionable, but it looks like he's going to play. And I'm even happier with Kirk if DeAndre Hopkins plays. If Hopkins is in the game, I've got to believe for the most part, Jalen Ramsey will be lined up against Hopkins for the most part. But why? That's important because that leaves Kirk and Rondell Moore in a better situation as far as matchups. If DeAndre Hopkins does not play, I would be a little bit more concerned if Ramsey was going to lock down Kirk. But I don't think that's going to happen too much one-on-one. And Kirk has moved predominantly to the slot this year. And Emil, he's been really good. People are not talking about him. 24 points the opening week, only 9.5 the second week. But last week against Jacksonville, he had 20.4 DraftKings points. What I can't believe about it, Emil, he went down $100 in price. Last week he was $5,400. This week he's $5,300. The over/under in this game is silly. Let's see. I think it's over 52. Let me just check.
Well, maybe Rondell Moore. People are so happy out of him that may be why Kirk lowered him, even though he scored 20-plus points.
Yeah. So This is the highest over under. So 55 points, and the Cardinals are 4.5-point underdogs, which means that Kyler Murray in this passing game should be throwing a lot in the fourth quarter. I like Kirk here a lot. He's starting to come on. No one's talking about him. Yes, I agree with you. I think a lot of people just love Moore, but I like Christian Kirk's floor better in cash games. Rondell Moore, I think, is a little bit dependent on hitting that one big home run play. Now, it could come at any time. He could have a 60-yard reception, and he just scored. He goes like crazy. But I'll take the floor with Christian Kirk, and considering he scored over 20 points twice, I love him here.
Wow, yeah, that does sound fantastic. I'm clicking these values into our optimizer.
Ooh.
Sorry, I was a little behind here. I should have had that done.
Oh, good.
All right, then hit the little optimizer button. Tick, 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 and boom. Yeah, that's interesting. We've got Henry, we've got Davis, I have Doyle, I have Kamara in the flex, and the Rams defense in the first lineup. Obviously, there's multiple lineups, so
that's nice. They teamed up Henry and Kamara with this lineup. And
in one of them, it's in a few of them, but obviously you get a variety if you hit enough buttons.
Yeah, look at those ownerships. They're all under 6%. So I like these. I love the optimizer, man. Put them in and see what you get.
Yeah, maybe we'll find out if Kittle is going to play or not before the morning, although they play the afternoon game, but maybe we'll get an inkling here on Sunday morning.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Let's go to, the Fantastic Four.
We also like to give a lineup Fantastic Four to build around. And these are the players that I feel most comfortable building my lineup around. I'm also trying to give you a lot of options, so my salary, when I give the Fantastic Four, I try to keep it under $25,000. That way you have enough money to put it in the optimizer and maybe get one or two top shelf players. So this week, my Fantastic Four is $23,800, and that leaves you with $5,240 per player. Remember, one of those is a defense and a tight end, so you have a lot of options on how you want to build around this. I'm all in on the Cowboys, Emil. I can't believe, I think it's because they played on Monday night. The Cowboys' salaries seem to be suppressed because I believe that DraftKings puts out the pricing before the Monday night game is concluded. Yeah, so when I saw Dak Prescott at 6,700, because when I'm looking at these numbers, he's below Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, you're looking at a top 3 quarterback, and he is the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 9th price quarterback on this slate. And I do not believe the Panthers are as good as their undefeated record. If you look at who the Panthers have played this year, I can't exactly say it's the biggest challenge. They played the Jets. Now, they did play New Orleans, but remember, New Orleans had like their entire coaching staff almost, and I'm exaggerating, but they lost a lot of their staff to COVID. It was basically Sean Payton and a couple of assistants, and the Panthers just whacked them in that game. And then they played Houston on a Thursday night with a rookie quarterback, Davis Webb. So the Panthers' defense hasn't really faced a team as good as the Cowboys. The Cowboys are home here now. This division, if they win this game, is for the taking here. Dak Prescott is playing tremendous football. I love him in this spot. If you're looking at him, in 2 of 3 games, he scored over 21 points. The only time he did not was when he played the Chargers. And that was a very strange game. It just slowed down to a crawl. Both teams' defense played well. I don't think the Panthers' defense is as good as the Chargers, even though the numbers tell us otherwise. I'm not scared of the Carolina defense. And I'm looking, I need to get a pass catcher. I think a lot of people are going to go to Dalton Schultz. I can't go there. I think it's a trap. 2 touchdowns against the Eagles. He looked like a world beater. I just don't see Dalton Schultz replicating that. And then, so the decision for me came down to Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. As I mentioned, the salaries are really tight, and this is a good challenge this week. So I'm going to go to Amari Cooper. He's $700 less than CeeDee Lamb. Opening game, basically 42 points against Tampa Bay. Since then, 5.5 and 5.6. He's only been targeted 9 times the last 2 weeks. 17 targets against Tampa Bay. Emil, let's go for a middle ground. I think Amari Cooper will get double-digit targets here. 3 and 4 targets is far too little. I think he gets 10 or 11 targets. I'm getting, arguably, who's better, CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper? We can discuss that. But when I'm getting a $6,000 alpha receiver attached to my quarterback who I love Cooper here. I'll take him with the expectation that he'll get an uptick in targets. Hopefully he gets 10 or more, and I think he'll reach the end zone. So that's the foundation of my passing game. DeAndre Swift, I'm going to look closely at this. He's questionable, but he's had this questionable tag this year, and all he does is he keeps going out and he produces. Every week it seems like he's questionable, and every week he produces. We've mentioned how good this Lions offensive line is playing. They're not a great team yet, but the offensive line, they've got a foundation there. There's no question. DeAndre Swift in a PPR format, absolutely love him. Emil, check out these targets. 11, 5, and 7. That's insane he's basically doing James White. He's playing like a third down pass catching star. But what I love, 11, 8, and 14 carries. So he's getting touches in the ground game. He gets a boatload of targets every week. 2 of the 3 games he scored over 23 points. His low on this season is 11.8 against Green Bay. He's 6,200 here. I believe he's going to play. We'll watch till kickoff, but I'm heavily invested in DeAndre Swift. And then I wanted a wide receiver, and I wanted to go below $5,000, and there's a lot of interest in wide receivers. But the one that I chose, and you and I talked about him last week, I believe, a little bit. I think it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Tim Patrick might be the most overlooked wide receiver. Emil, here's the consistency. 4 and 5 targets, but out of 13 targets, he has 12 receptions. If you throw him the ball, he catches it. And his fantasy points are 13.9, 12.7, 14.8. Since Jerry Jeudy went down, Tim Patrick has stepped into this role when you have Courtland Sutton, who demands the attention of the team's top defensive back, and you have Noah Fant, and you have Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams who can catch passes out of the backfield. Tim Patrick has a lot of one-on-one opportunities, and in matchups he can dominate. I like this matchup. The Ravens' defense is good. It's not great. I'm not as scared of it as I used to be. Denver's also home. I like Patrick here for 4,900. And none of these ownerships, the highest ownership, everyone, Amari Cooper at 13%. But all the other 3 are under 10%. Emil, did you get to put him into the optimizer?
I did, and before I forget, Hamler is also out for Denver, so that
that's
Tim
right.
Patrick also. And
Absolutely.
and Swift is listed as I just had him up. He it's a morning game, so you'll know about Swift. But I think the things are looking good. Yeah, I did put it in the optimizer, and again, one of them, Henry and Kamara, we probably have them rated high because our optimizer uses our own rankings. Also, and it also had Curtis Samuel in one of the lineups at the $3,000, which is, using some of those. So yeah, those are quite interesting. And again, you can run up to 50 lineups, and you can turn people off and on with that optimizer. God, it's too good.
It's great.
Wish I could start that many lineups.
Sometimes I wonder how nice it would be to be one of those players who can play like 35, 40 lineups in GPP. It would just be fun to make them.
Yeah.
It would, but it would be so much fun to put them together, right?
I wonder if I can find some of those 10 centers and put in 20 lineups. Maybe I ought to try that.
Oh, there probably is. I've never looked. That's a good question. I'll look. Yeah. I'll see you around for next week.
All right, here's the next slide.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to build better DFS lineups, the football diehards have you covered. Every week throughout the season, we have so much good information on our website. We begin the week DraftKings cash plays and DFS GPP stacks. Jamie Calandro. We have Gary Davenport, the Shadow Knows, wide receiver, cornerback matchups. Excellent information if you want to see what wide receivers that you can find value and who have a positive matchup that you can score points out of. The Hall of Famer Bob Harris does DFS 3 and out. 3 players that he loves, 1 that he does not for GPP lineup building. We have Justin Lanero digging in the crates daily. He's looking for your value plays at all across the positions. It's there every week. And we have the DFS Football Die Hard show on Sundays, 10 in the morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time with Jason and Jamie. And Emil's on there, and they give you all the up-to-date information at the last second. And, of course, if you go to Football Diehards right now, you have my sheet of knowledge is up there with top shelf, value plays, and my 2 cash lineups that to show you how I'm building around this week. And I always update it every Sunday morning by 9 a.m. Eastern time.
Fantastic. By the way, we got a question on YouTube. Derrick Henry is supposed to be the back this week. Do you think $10,200 in, that would be FanDuel, is too much for cash games?
On FanDuel, I think he's a little overpriced for cash games. And the reason why I'm a little worried is because of the game script. He's so expensive. If the Titans got out to like a 20-point lead on the Jets, they might pull Henry. And if you don't get 2 rushing touchdowns in the first half, he might not be able to hit that double value in FanDuel. I do like him better in DraftKings, and he's in one of my lineups that I have posted right now in the sheet of knowledge. Because he's significantly less in DraftKings, right, Emil?
Oh, God,
I think he's 8,800.
Yeah, it's way lower. 8,800.
So I would highly recommend for DraftKings. I'm not as sold in FanDuel. I am probably going to be very, very limited, like maybe 5% or 10% in a cash game portfolio with Derrick Henry. I don't think if I had 1 or 2 lineups, I think I might pass him in FanDuel.
Wow, portfolio. I like that word. Also, what's interesting, which we really haven't hit yet, I just thought I'd throw it out since we're talking about Henry, is Julio Jones and A.J. Brown are both already out. And I'm not really sure how that affects that game, but that's, definitely something different that may or may not help Henry.
Yes, and I've looked at their wide receivers. So I've studied this game a lot because you have Chester Rogers, Nick Westbrook, Ikeme, and Josh Reynolds are all 3,300 or less. Emil, I just don't know if I can do it. And you have mentioned Curtis Samuel. Because I don't know which one of those 3 will be the most heavily targeted. I mean, Reynolds has flashed with the Rams in the past. Rodgers has had a few big games when he was with the Colts. And last week, Nick Westbrook-Ikini did excellent with 4 catches, 53 yards.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If you ask me if I can pinpoint who's the most heavily targeted, I can't guarantee that. So I have not put him in my cash game lineups because there's risk there. I don't know who's going to get the most targets.
Sounds good. All right, our final GPP slide. Here we are.
All right, there are so many good games with over 50. GPP contrarian stack. We are trying to find a lineup that will be very little owned by your competitors in your GPP contest. So we want very low ownership. Cardinals, Rams, people are going to stack that. No question. Chiefs, Eagles, they're going to stack that game. Seahawks, 49ers, I went all the way down to the 4th highest game, 51.5 over under. I'm going to go to Cleveland and Minnesota. Emil, I looked. Nick Chubb, because of what happened last week with Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt got the touchdown and the receptions, people are disappointed in Nick Chubb. He's only $7,000. He's basically Derrick Henry, but just not as good. You know, Derrick Henry's special. One of the best backs I've ever seen in my 40 years watching football. He's just amazing. Nick Chubb is not Derrick Henry, but he has Derrick Henry upside. 2 touchdowns and 120 yards rushing is within his realm of outcomes every time he's on the field. Minnesota is a bottom 5 rush defense. They're absolutely terrible. I'm getting Nick Chubb with a 25-point ceiling with a 3% ownership. Emil, I am all in. Yum, yum. I mean, what if he scored 3 times? I don't think it, but you know he's going to do it once this year. We don't know necessarily when the game's coming. But if we ever got that 3-touchdown outing, 120 yards from Nick Chubb, and we only had 3% ownership, that will put us so far ahead of the competition. And if that's happening, well, we know Minnesota's playing catch up. And how good, you know, last week we talked about Tom Brady, and everyone wants the quarterback with the rushing floor. All I know is Tom Brady put up over, 430 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he rushed one in last week. He was like the 4th highest scoring quarterback, and hardly anyone owned him. I keep looking. Kirk Cousins, every week, Emil. Low ownership. No one wants him.
Nope.
Everyone loves Justin Jefferson. Everyone loves Adam Thielen. Everyone loves Dalvin Cook. No one likes Kirk Cousins. Don't understand it, Emil. 25 points in the opening week against Cincinnati. 25 points on the road against Arizona. And last week, 28 points against Seattle. Hello. He's averaging 26 points a game. He's only 6,400. He's less than Dak Prescott. Emil, look at that ownership. 4%.
Nothing.
I'm getting Kirk Cousins and Nick Chubb, 2 stars with 25-point upside for less than 4% ownership on each player in a game with a 51.5 over-under. Give it to me, baby. And then I had a look. Who do I want to pair with Cousins? What I did is I looked at ownership. And Emil, could you look? If my memory serves me, Adam Thielen is rather high this week. So I was looking, right? Isn't Adam Thielen pretty high there?
8.3%.
8.3. So I looked, and Jefferson's 5%. He's like 4.8. Look,
actually, right now he's 4.3. He's moved down.
4.3.
Yeah, he's moved down.
I'm getting Justin Jefferson for 4.3% ownership. Last week, he went nuts against Seattle. And this year, he scored 29, 18, and 12 DraftKings points. Justin Jefferson has a huge floor with an incredible ceiling. And then I said, I want a cheap piece of this game. Tyler Conklin, look at that ownership, 3%. Last week, he scored 20 points, 8 targets, 70 yards, and a touchdown. At 3,500, at 3% ownership, I'll take the tight end there. I like that, and that gives me nice salary cap savings. And I know he's higher owned. But, Emil, I just love Odell Beckham in this matchup. I think he's due for a big game. We finally saw a healthy Odell Beckham. He had 9 targets against the Bears. He only had 5 receptions, but I'll take 9 targets any day, 77 yards, and he didn't get in the end zone. I think Odell scores this week. I think he puts up 20 points. I have him in my cash game lineups, and I'll put him in this contrarian GPP, even though the ownership's a little high, because I want 2 Browns. And then let's see. I can hear you probably putting in the optimizer. Who does the optimizer?
Sorry, I was doing something else. I'm behind.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Keep going.
I like Odell here. If this game shoots out, and I think the Browns defense is good. But with Dalvin Cook, as long as they can keep those pass rushers and give Kirk Cousins decently clean pocket, he will find Thielen, Jefferson, and Conklin open down the field. So I like this game. I think it's going overlooked, and we're looking for GPP stacks that are contrarian. We want a game that doesn't have a lot of ownership. Emil, were you able to put it in?
No, I didn't get to it, so we're going to have to leave that one to the student. But I think obviously you're going to find a lot there with the salary that you got at $30,000. But I apologize. I was busy doing other things. But
no, that's all right. Hey, just go to our website, footballdiehards.com. You go under the daily button, and you can find the optimizer. There's for DraftKings and for FanDuel. All my slides are for DraftKings because I play predominantly on DraftKings because I like full point PPR. But you can also plug in all these plays into the FanDuel optimizer. Just remember, sometimes you have a discrepancy in the salary. Like Derrick Henry is so much more expensive on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings.
And our optimizer, obviously, you can pick either one if you're playing either one. So you'll get the optimization of those particular salaries for FanDuel if you want to check out the FanDuel one. Fantastic. This is going to be quite interesting. I will plug that in later into the everybody enjoy this weekend. And these are fun contrarian picks here.
Thank you. I worked hard this week trying to find something to get our viewers in that 1 or 2% range.
A quick question here.
Sure.
Elijah Moore for the Jets. You know, the Jets have had some really serious trouble against some great teams. Could they muster anything up against Tennessee's pass defense? And if Elijah Moore is out and Jamie Crowder actually starts to play, he's 3,300 at 2.3%. Is that an insane thing to do, to consider him in GPP? Crowder?
No. So right now, Moore has been ruled out.
Oh, is it official?
Right here.
Cool.
So I guess, it says right here. I just found it. RotoWire. Moore is out against the Titans. So that means if Crowder starts, look, if the game script tells you that the Jets are going to be playing from behind, right?
Oh, yeah, I just found it on footballdiehards.com. He's out. I missed it.
Oh, there you go. No. So I do like Crowder as a contrarian play. I don't think he's going to be owned on more than 1% of teams. So if you wanted to pivot away from Corey Davis because I hear a lot of people are talking about Corey Davis in this matchup, and you could pivot for lower ownership to Jamison Crowder. It is an interesting strategy with Elijah Moore out.
Sounds good. All right, cool. That's about all I had.
Excellent.
Any
Good
extra?
luck, everyone.
Yes, great show, and yeah, good luck on Sunday. Thanks, John.